as the fire hit the town. I heard you cry, you can still be saved. So I took the road you went down.
Hello, I'm Marina Soroncean, and today we're back speaking with the singer and songwriter Slim Stevens. Welcome back.
Thank you, Marina.
The last time we were here, we discussed motherhood,
I remember.
and today I'm going to ask you about your sainthood.
Interesting, all right.
Yes, and I'm going to try to make you to discover your another secret of happiness.
Okay, you're going to try to get me to tell another secret of happiness?
Yes, I will try it,
Okay.
but I'll try it later. Now I had written some questions, so I don't forget them.
Really? Questions?
Yes.
Let me see. You have an extra copy?
Yes.
You do? Okay, oh my goodness. All right. Okay.
Okay.
Red Cross, okay.
Didn't you film your performances of Sound of Nothing from this spot?
Oh, The Sound of Nothing, the song. As a
Yes.
matter of fact, I did, but you did some good research. I was facing that way at the time, not with my back to the kayaker. Yeah, that's right here. It's quite. This is the original Key Bridge. The new one is obviously up there.
Yes. In your song Invisible River, you sing, I have to quote it, "My sister and I on the summer heard a different tongue. My voices that descended in a camp of Unitarian. Bob Dylan's voice cried out to me, you're old enough to run. Agnostic patron saint and his prophet-driven son." He was your agnostic patron saint? Why?
So the line, sometimes it's hard. You can sing the lines, but you can't say them. You know what I'm talking about? The lyrics, my sister and I one summer heard a different tongue, voices that dissented in a camp Unitarian. Bob Dylan's voice cried out to me, you're old enough to run. Agnostic patron saint and his prophet-driven son. Was he my agnostic patron saint? Yeah, well, I guess I said he was, didn't I? That's what it says right there. I had a really strong arm in first grade. Mm-hmm. You're from Moldova, right?
Yes.
You have first grade in Moldova?
We do.
That's right, you call it that?
Yes.
Okay. I had a really strong right arm in first grade. You know what I mean by that? Me, I know. My daughter is a first grade teacher, and she let me come to her class a couple months ago, and there they are. Me. So looking back, I realized that, I should say looking forward and looking currently too, one of the biggest impulses I have is the following. Mm-hmm. Me. So when I realized that that's what's motivating me and us, that made a big difference to me, one of my basic forces. And my good friend Bob Dylan, whom I've never spoken to personally, has a lot of that too. But I think nowadays he goes, me. Then, luckily, to go with my strong right arm as a first grader, you have second grade in Moldova too?
We do.
Okay, in second grade, I had a very good intellect. And you've heard of Abe Lincoln, right?
Yes.
Is there like a hero they all talk about in Moldova?
Yes.
Who's that?
Stefan Chalmari.
Stefan Chalmari, okay. So everybody in second grade was talking about Abe Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln this, Abraham Lincoln that, Abraham Lincoln did this, Abraham Lincoln did that. it wasn't for a couple of decades that I didn't appreciate that the second graders south of the Mason-Dixon line, which is sort of that separates the North and the South. I think theirs was Robert E. Lee, but I was smart. And remember, I was me. So I figured out that I wanted to be Abe Lincoln. Because then everybody would be talking about me. This is so true. I remember this emotion. Another emotion I can remember so clearly is someday I'll be 10 years old. Do you ever have that?
Yes, we all want to grow up when we're little.
I can remember, I must have been 5 or 6. 10 was so high. It was way 10, way up there. So, being a smart kid and merging my talents and desires with my knowledge, I decided I was going to become Abe Lincoln. I was really smart, because you know what I figured out?
What?
You're not going to like this. Abe Lincoln was dead. This gave me one of my first problems, because I remember the fantasy that I was going to become Abe Lincoln was really strong. Must be fantasy life for a child, you know. I had made up my mind. And this is where I think I had my mother's insight, because she was very good at like seeing deep into the forces behind what's going on the surface. And I didn't have her ability for that. And I had to decide the following. Was it worth becoming Abe Lincoln if it also meant I had to be dead? Now, I didn't know much about being dead, but I'd done a little research, and I knew that might not be good. I agonized a long time about that. And you know what?
What?
I decided, yes, it was worth it. So that was why I became Bob Dylan's prophet-driven son. And it's prophet, P-H-E-T, but it's kind of a little bit of a dig to my friend there. Boy, that was a long answer. Huh?
That's why you were quoted as saying that all the artists are writing their own obituaries?
All artists are writing their own obituaries.
Yes.
I don't remember that quote. I think what you heard me say, or they heard me say, was, I wish I could be on that airplane. No, I think what they heard me say was, I'm just one epiphany short of a paradigm shift. That's about how I feel right now. Artists are all writing their obituaries. Yeah, I think they're scared and mad. I think anyone who lives, just like my second grader deciding, is it worth it if I'm going to be Abe Lincoln to be dead? It's kind of similar. I think of Frank McCourt. Frank McCourt wrote a book called Angela's Ashes about his mother. And he's gone now. And it amazes me that he could be gone, that little Irish boy. And I never met Frank McCourt. I saw him on TV. I'm a sucker for accents. I was born in England, you know. So when I came here, I had a little 5-year-old English accent, which was sort of, I lost it by attrition, that's all.
I wish you kept it.
Do you? I'll work on it. I'm a good chameleon. I always adopt the tone of other people. So I wouldn't be very good as one of those receptionists that they hire just because they have an English accent, you know? Oh, boy. So, Frank McCourt was scared and mad. I know my agnostic patron saint, Bob Dylan, was scared and mad. I read Steve Martin's book. If I listen to a book on tape, is that reading it? Because some of my friends say I didn't read it. And so ever since then, I thought like, well, gosh, you shouldn't be saying you read it when I listened to every word. So I listened to Steve Martin's book, and he's scared and mad. And I think anybody is scared and mad. In my case, it's more sort of scared and sad. So I still, as the first grader with the Abe Lincoln fetish, I still believe that that it won't happen, or what I'll leave, what'll be left behind. But I think that's what I meant.
Okay.
When I was growing up, after Abe Lincoln, I can only remember two, and it just bothers me. Two people. Did you have heroes? Like when you were in second grade, was there like a famous movie star or a famous singer? Or
Yeah, everybody has that.
who was yours?
Cinderella.
Cinderella. Okay. So I remember Abe Lincoln, and I can only remember two. I remember Fabian, who you could buy Fabian bubblegum cards, and he was a pop star. He was probably like a Justin Bieber. Sorry, Fabian. Sorry, Justin. And I remember collecting his cards. Like we had baseball cards where you get a slice of pink bubble gum. And they came out with Fabian cards. So that was interesting, you know, like you can understand wanting to have a baseball hero. But I remember that. I don't remember a thing about Fabian. Not a thing. But I remember his name, and I remember he was one of those obsessions for a little kid. And the other was Mickey Mantle, who was a baseball player.
Oh.
A New York Yankee. And I grew up from the age of 5 to 15 around New York. Then I went away to a Unitarian summer camp. And just like there had been an Abe Lincoln machine, a publicity machine, and a Fabian publicity machine, and a Mickey Mantle publicity machine, I think with an athlete, when they're famous, we always have sort of more respect for them because you can't fake it. Whereas there are people who think some of the popular singers today aren't really that talented.
Yeah.
But for me, when I got to this Unitarian summer camp, my sister was 3 years older than I was. So I was following the publicity machine was working there, and it was working for Bob Dylan. There were two counselors, Speedy Ventura, Michael Vincent Ventura, Speedy Ventura, and Mike Berger. And they thought Bob Dylan was cool. And I thought Bob Dylan was cool. Because I thought they were cool. And that was when he became, in a way, my prophet-driven son. And I called him the agnostic patron saint. I guess it speaks for itself. I'm going to give you a free secret of happiness, okay? No charge, all right?
Okay.
You won't even have to use your card for the other one. Looking back, I realized one day that hype, you know what hype is when you say, oh, come see Marina Soroncean in her new red dress. Come to the original Key Bridge Foundation. The graffiti matches her outfit. Come Sunday morning and you get a free cup of lukewarm coffee. Did you get your cup of lukewarm?
Yes.
Okay. So the publicity machine was working for him. And what I learned was hype will get you up, but hype won't keep you up.
That's true.
And to me what that meant was Yeah, I think he's cool because they told me he's cool. I read later how the people, I don't even know your album, your label, Bob. I think it's Columbia, but the Columbia Records people were sending memos back and forth saying, why aren't we selling more boots? Bob Dylan was wearing boots, so they were selling like a counterculture. But the hype might have got him up, although I don't think in his case it was the hype that got him up. He wasn't like picked to be a boy band like now they'll like audition and create a boy band out of people. But he kept himself up.
Okay.
Is that a long enough answer for you?
Yes, it's a
Okay.
very interesting answer too. Thank you for that. If Schlesinger had some thoughts about your song entitled "He Was 12," and I want to quote her. She said, "The whole thing, everything, it is Slim life story, and to whom doesn't he address it? His music hero, Bob Dylan, but wait, to whom does Slim pay tribute? Not Bobby." With that teaser, let's watch "He Was 12" on the monitor.
That's what she said?
Yes.
Here it is, the whole thing, everything. Everything. It is Slim's life story, and to whom does he address it? His music hero, Bobby Dylan. But wait, to whom does Slim pay tribute? Not Bobby. Uh-huh. Okay, so now we're going to watch it on the monitor. This over here?
Yes.
He was 12 when he first heard you. The future was cold and long. Lying in his living room as Peter, Paul, and Mary sang your song. How many roads must he walk down before he's called a man? Trying to forget the blows he didn't understand. He crawled to the speaker and tried to climb inside. Now all these years later he hears your mother has died. Below the summer camp theater, their cave was enough. On their green army blanket bed with the girl he so gently loved. The daughter of a Puritan and a reclusive saboteur. The son of a utopian and an abused frontier girl. He had rode all night on a bicycle on the New York interstate to buy your latest album, and now the sad-eyed lady played. Addicted to the other side he could never get to. In every house they're happier, in every building too. He hustled the marble corridor, shook every famous hand. Where the dirty little secret was, never take a stand. But late at night he'd roll one and hear you trying to get it right. Haunted by grandiosity with no place to hide. At the money changer's table he began to make a name. But he was stopped in his betrayal by the sad and ancient pain. From guru to professor, from lobbyist to clown, he sampled all their medicines with champagne to keep them down. Try this one for duplicity, try this one for deceit. But here he is at 2 a.m. playing your songs on the street. now I must confess, I got a message to her. I said, in my loneliness, he helped me endure. Could I have still been trying to reach the other side after years of hearing you describing the price of being glorified? Well, thank you for asking. How does it feel? I'm invisible now, I've got no secrets to conceal.
Let me ask you this. Did you crawl to the speaker?
Yeah, the song says he was 12 when he first heard you. The future was long and hard. He crawled to the speaker and tried to climb inside. That speaker was very important to me. My dad listened to Brahms and Beethoven. I think they were his, and Rachmaninoff. And we had this big speaker. The speaker was like this big, you know, it was like, and sometimes he would lie on his back near the speaker, just like having a Walkman in his ears, and he would get absorbed. So he had that romantic impulse, which looking back was amazing, because he was a workaholic. Both my parents were workaholics in a sense. And my mother could appreciate artistic things. She was basically tone deaf though. She'd hit like every third note or something. So my father had the musical sense. But looking back, it's amazing to me that he could, with all the other pressures he had and the unhappiness he had, find the time for himself to lie in front of that speaker. Well, that was the same speaker, and I was 12, that good old, what's his name now, Grossman, who was Bob Dylan's, I forget there's a term for somebody who's the person, the older person who sort of directs another person's life. Maybe it'll hit me later, some Latin word. And Grossman, what's your first name, Grossman? Come on, you created Bob Dylan. At least he created Peter, Paul and Mary. And they sang Blowing in the Wind, and it became a top #1 hit. And it had these huge symbolic questions, which are very, you know, people, there it was. And that was the same speaker. That's why I said he crawled to the speaker and tried to climb inside. Now all these years later, I hear your mother has died. So in a sense, that's as close as I ever got to Bob, because I was absorbing the legacy that I got from my own dad about making time for music, believing in it, which was extremely hard when I was a young, annoying, worried, ambitious, I don't want to say a negative word about myself other than that, but it amazed me then and it amazed me now that I could actually take time like my dad did. And Bob had an inspiration who was Beatty Zimmerman, his mother. And in a sense, in that song, I was making an analogy. You know, you asked me something before. I noticed this question and talked about it. The publicity machine that we were talking about was really annoying to him. There's this section in his movie, Don't Look Back, where he says, we need another Bob Dylan. In other words, he was like the girl who gets a job in an amusement park and has to wear the Winnie the Pooh costume, you know, after 7 days. maybe she doesn't want to wear the Winnie the Pooh costume. There's a song called Beautiful Dreamer. Beautiful dreamer, wake unto me. As part of my recent folk song, not farewell tour, look back, I realized how important that tune had been to me as a child. And I'm not good with chords, you know. Mm-hmm. 3 chords is a lot. And you know what, this song, you have to change the chords every now and then. I can never get them right. So, but after 111 times, at least I got the basic rudimentary chords. I didn't know anything about the song. Beautiful dreamer, wake unto me, stardust and dewdrops are waiting for thee. It's pretty hard. I'm very critical. There's always a voice in me saying, oh, that's so tacky. But there was the melody, and I love playing it on the harmonica. And songs of the rude world heard in the day, lulled by the moonlight have all passed away. Beautiful dreamer, queen of my song. I like that line. List while I woo thee with soft melody. Gone are the cares of life's busy throng. Beautiful dreamer, wake unto me. All right. Not quite up to the standards maybe of my good friend Bob or me in terms of having, well, I don't want to talk about myself. I would never talk about myself. Having, except today, the twist. The storms are raging on the open sea and on the highway of regret. There's this song of his that I used to play, and I don't anymore, but it had that one line. Only one, but it had it. So anyway, Beautiful Dreamer was written 152 years ago by a guy named Stephen Foster, who wrote a lot of American famous songs. And it was one of 20 songs that they advertised in the newspapers as the last song written by Stephen Foster. And I saw that, I just got such a kick out of it to see that the publicity machine was running there for Stephen Foster, you know, I don't know if you can hear me. The hype was getting him up. I also did some other research about somebody who had a lot of hype, who was a carpenter from Nazareth, I think. And he came home with a special talent, and he came to his temple, which was like church, and started telling people things and acting very, I guess they thought he was arrogant. And they chased him from the temple. They actually chased him up the hill and almost threw him off the cliff. Later on, long after he was gone, there was a lot of people spent a lot of time talking about him. And there's analogous, I guess it's analogous because Bobby Dylan, in his way, came back with special knowledge and an amazing ability to, the Carpenter and Abe Lincoln had an incredible ability to make a lesson by analogy. And I wish I'd known I was going to be thinking about this, because I would have researched what turns of phrase they had, although I can probably remember just off the cuff. You probably can too. Well, let him who has no sin throw the first stone. You know, it's just,
yes,
that's
the famous one.
That's pretty basic. And also turn the other cheek, which is an amazing psychological technique, which works. Incredible. So Bobby Dylan came back and got some notoriety, and they were all excited. By they, I mean a certain sector of New York City European immigrants who really liked Blowing in the Wind, and Bob had, I hope I can talk about this later, Bob had done some very brave things in his songs. So they decided to give him an award at a big dinner.
Okay.
And he said, he has the assassin's motivation in his heart too. And I think by that he meant that we all have negative feelings, and not to pretend. Oh, and they chased him up the hill and almost threw him off the cliff. They made a huge, huge deal of it. And it was really hard. I think Bob was 22, and all of a sudden from being the hero, he was treated as a pariah and was almost attacked. And that was hard for him. He also had the first grade, me. He had this one song, let's see if without singing it's hard to do, but you might be the ambassador to England or France. You might like to gamble. You might like to dance. Mm-hmm. You might be the heavyweight champion of the world. You might be a socialite with a long string of pearls. But you got to serve somebody. You might be a rock and roll addict prancing on the stage. You might have drugs at your command. You might have women in a cage. You might be a businessman or some high degree thief. They might call you doctor. They might call you chief. Whoa. So he knew that he was a rock and roll addict prancing on the stage. He knew he had that that gene, that me. I knew you were going to ask me about Bob Dylan, obviously. Kids are always trying to get on the airplane. We should have done this at 3 a.m. with no planes, right? Kids are always asking, especially of their parents, why are you fighting? And Bob asked that to everybody. It especially hurts now with what's going on. You just see so many children being blown up.
Yeah.
Something's wrong, and it hurts. It hurts. But being a kid, like by third grade, you're not just interested in those truths. You're interested in being hip and arrogant. The fifth graders are pushing you around, and Bob was great at the arrogant gene. We all talked about it at the Unitarian camp. Oh my gosh, you hear what happened? What? Oh, I was at Gertie's Folk City and Bob Dylan was there going through these records. I walked up and said, "Hey, Bob." And he said, "My friends call me Robert." So he knew how to put people down, and did it in his songs too. Was that your question? Oh, I'll say that I bet he made a much better hero than he did a roommate or housemate. I think that was definitely for him. So you asked, did I crawl to the speaker? Yeah, that's why I crawled to the speaker and tried to get inside, because I was trying to get away. In other words, there's a voice, why are you fighting? My parents were fighting. Mm-hmm. And if I could get in that speaker, get into the song, I like my father was doing too, I guess, get into the song. Although at the time I never realized how similar it was. But yeah, I tried to climb inside. In a sense, that's what I've done ever since, by becoming part of the song structure myself.
Do you still have your Green Army blanket?
Oh, from the song, the Green Army blanket?
Yes.
No, I don't know where that went. I don't even have her anymore. I looked hard for her. I contacted her mother, I contacted her sister, because I wanted so much to know what life looked like to her and get memories. And I know that she has things in that little treasure chest of her memories that, hey, you look good with that.
Thank you.
Where's mine? Her treasure chest of memories. Yeah, there she was. She was, yeah, the first girlfriend. I was okay until I got to the fourth girlfriend, then I had some problems.
Why?
Well, my fourth girlfriend was a dyslexic, agnostic, anorexic insomniac. You know what she did?
What?
She stayed up all night eating cookies and wondering if there is a dog.
Wow.
Wanted to make sure I got them all in there. Dyslexic, agnostic, anorexic. Yeah, they're all in there. Oh, jeez. You ask good questions.
Let me ask you this. Did your green army blanket was your security blanket?
Yeah, I mean, it was my security blanket, emotionally in that sense. And Bob Dylan's songs were a security blanket too. The way he opened it, myself for what I did, I cannot be excused. The changes I was going through can't even be used. For the lies that I told in an effort not to lose the would-be dream lover of a lifetime. He was talking to me. I'll let this go by. He was talking to me about how he screwed up relationships and messed things up, and that gave me tremendous power because I thought, like a lot of adolescents, that I was supposed to be perfect and was very hard on myself when I wasn't. So in a sense, he was my army blanket, my security blanket. I can't help thinking about security blankets without thinking of John Ransom. He was the man who was a northern soldier and was committed to the Andersonville Civil War prison, which was a prison of the South. I think that the Northerners, after the Civil War, executed one man, only one. Everything else was forgiven.
Interesting.
And the man they executed was the man who ran the Andersonville prison because he killed people. He didn't take them out and shoot them, but just the equivalent. And John Ransom was one of these people, and he wrote a diary which is just unbelievable because it happened to him. And he had a blanket in the prison. And he knows because he was there night after night after night. He knows that that blanket saved his life. The war was over and they were released, and he was walking north, emaciated, sick, almost dead. And the second night, one of the people he was traveling with stole his security blanket. And he reflected on how for whatever it was, 2.5 years, if he had not had that, he would have been dead. But as soon as he didn't need it, it was taken, but it was okay because he was okay. He was out. He could get warm. He could live. That's the way I feel about what Bob Dylan did for me when I didn't have any other tools. I had that psychological tool of crawling into the speaker, crawling into his words.
What was the bicycle ride like?
Oh, in the song.
Yes.
He had rode on the, oh, how does that go? In the green, below the summer camp theater, that's a summer camp, their cave was enough. You asked that right here. On their green army blanket bed with the girl he so gently loved, he had rode all night on a bicycle on the New York interstate to buy your latest album, and now the sad-eyed lady played. Oh, I was a hero. Me. Oh, I made a plan. This was going to impress. Who would it impress? Speedy Ventura and Mike Berger. What was my plan? We knew that Bob Dylan's new album was going to come out. It was July. And we knew that there was a record store in Brewster, New York. Brewster, New York was probably 21 miles away. I got on my bike and I rode all night on the interstate, which was almost empty, and I was on the shoulder, to Brewster, New York, to buy Blonde on Blonde. You're too young, but we used to have records, which came in like record sleeves.
I remember that.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. And I brought it back. So that's sort of like bringing back. What would that be like? Bringing back the Recovering the army blanket? No, saving something. So I wanted to be a hero.
Okay. That is the son of a utopian.
Oh, the son of a utopian. Yeah, my father was a utopian, and my mother was an abused frontier girl. That was a marriage made in hell. No, that was that's what they were.
You shook the all famous hands. Let me ask you this: what is better, to be a hero or to have a hero?
Oh, from the song "He Shook Every His Famous Hand."
Yes.
Yeah, I did shake every famous hand. Boy, having a hero is so much better in so many ways. In this instance, to be able to know who cares for you, to be writing your songs for no other audience than yourself. So I can appreciate Bob in ways that he can't appreciate himself. The guy who was writing the 10 Commandments. You heard of the 10 Commandments?
Yes.
Yeah, you got those in Moldova?
We do.
So he could be thinking, wait a second, I should have put number 9 ahead of number 2. You know, I could have put an adjective here instead of... So the author is always replaying in his own mind. The guy who makes the movie can never see it the way the person just comes and sees the movie. So in that weird sense, I got to appreciate Bob Dylan much more than he did, because it's had this huge effect on me, and I liked it, and I got those things without having to pay the big cost that he had to pay.
Like what?
Well, like learning the easy way that public love is empty love. You know, he learned the hard way that public love is empty love. I learned it the easy way.
Okay. And what does that mean?
Well, for me, the cops are coming to get us. I was struggling to survive. I learned those early folk songs with the Unitarians. Do Lord, oh do you remember me? Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on to that land. Gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside. So I learned those sort of as an adolescent. But then without really noticing and paying much attention to it, then I got unhappy as an adolescent, and I was trying to survive. So when I picked up the guitar and played Bob's songs, it was an act of survival. I wasn't trying to make it. It wasn't my hobby, like going to play tennis or even a profession, like trying to become a rock and roll addict. I was doing it to survive. So it was much more direct for me, because I needed it so bad.
For instance?
Well, as I said earlier, I tried to, because he could be open about his pain, I was able to be open with myself about my pain. This was long before I had ever rolled a, what do they call that again? There's something we used to roll and smoke. I can't remember what it was called, but that calmed me down. I'm looking at your questions here, trying to catch up here. That calmed me down later on. I didn't have that at 13, 14, and 15, and 16. I didn't have that. I don't even think I had it at 17. I was just really, really uptight and worried and feeling guilty and depressed, and I didn't know what to do about it.
Eve said about you, Bob Dylan's little brother is becoming Pete Seeger's cousin. What do you think she meant by that?
I think she's absolutely right. Bob Dylan's little brother, I just told you how I was Bob Dylan's little brother, right? Here he was cool, he was hip, he was arrogant, but on top of that, he said the things, it was the words, the words were there too for me. They were showing me a way. So I went through that entire phase, and that to me I've described as the folk song phase as when I was riding into town, growing up, learning those songs. He's got the whole world in his hands. So that we're there sort of in the background. Then my unhappiness hit, my adolescence hit, and when I got to town, it was Bob Dylan. That's who I heard, and I was basically a one, what do they say, a one-trick pony or a one, he was it. You know, I wasn't interested in anybody else. So then I started writing my own songs, which I describe as writing out of town. And I did it. You know, sort of got to a stage where, okay, the bulk of them, maybe all of them are over, whatever, 74 of them, whatever. Now, I'm going back to, trying to think of another one, the old folk songs. And that Pete Seeger was a folk singer, and Pete Seeger wasn't, you know, Bob Dylan for all of his exterior was an extremely troubled man. Pete Seeger was too, but his outside persona was, if I had a hammer, brothers and sisters, we're all together, which is lovely. It's wonderful. I mean, that's what educated me as I was growing up. So, in a sense, it's embarrassing for me to go back to the folk songs because it's sort of like, ooh, it's sort of like going back and seeing your old aunt, you know.
Are the folk songs your farewell tour?
The folk songs, my farewell tour. Well, if you walk up to a 15-year-old who has a girlfriend, might be one up there now, and you start asking him who he loves, he's going to tell you how he loves his girlfriend. He loves his girlfriend. Background behind it, you don't see it, is hopefully how much he loves his mother behind that. So, in that sense, it is a farewell tour for me. It's sort of remembering that my mom loved me all those years in the background. Those folk songs were there all the time, and so I now don't apologize because they weren't quite arrogant enough, the folk songs, you know, although some were, or paid strong enough. But some were certainly strong enough. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone.
How did you first come to see your hero in person?
Oh, Bob. I got to the co-ed boarding school as an entering 10th grader. And I was talking to some other entering 10th graders. Hey, you see that guy up on the porch? Yeah. Boy, he looks weird, doesn't he? Yeah. Look at that long hair, and he's wearing a cape, a long coat. What is that? And he's got a cane. And why is he talking to those 11th grade girls? I don't know, man. He's weird. Yeah, he's weird. Wow. Yeah, someone told me he met Bob Dylan. What? What did you just say? Yes, someone told me he met Bob Dylan. He met Bob Dylan? So I walked up to the main building where this guy was sitting with, talking to two 11th grade girls, which is pretty good if you're an incoming 10th grader and two 11th grade girls are listening to you. And he's sitting there like this, with his two hands on this ebony wood cane with a gold top. What's the word for the top of a cane?
I don't know.
And you don't know in any language?
No.
A knob? Hi. Is it true you met Bob Dylan? With this very hand. So that's how I met Peter Livingston. Peter Livingston, I was the suburban 10th grade boy who played football. I went to the Unitarian camp, but I was a suburban 10th grade boy who was extremely ambitious. Me. But I'd had that change that I was going through right then, and obviously it interested me that here was somebody that met Bob Dylan. And that began a friendship with him. It turns out Peter was the son of the president of Capitol Records, Alan Livingston, who had brought the Beatles, one of the people who brought the Beatles here. And I liked Peter right away, and got very close to him. And it was just that following February that his father sent us tickets to the Philadelphia Music Hall, and I saw Bob for the first time at that concert with great seats. And Bob and I had more social skills or more self-awareness in a way than Peter did. What did Bob wrote that that line that in a soldier's stance I aim my lance at the mongrel dogs who teach, fearing not I'd become my own enemy in the instant that I preached. So Dylan was talking a lot about, look, I thought I figured something out, but I didn't have it right. Peter didn't have much of that gene. Being me. Guess who ran for class vice president of the 10th grade?
I assume him.
Wrong. Give you a clue. Me.
Bob Dylan?
No.
Oh, you?
Yeah.
You're talking about you in this case.
I ran. Now, that was a pretty audacious thing to do because at this school, they start in 9th grade. So there was already half of the 10th graders that had all been there the year before. But new face, right?
Yes.
Jimmy Carter. Don't forget me. So I got up, made my speech, and my roommate, who I had been assigned as a 10th grader, wasn't Peter Livingston, was running for class president on the same ticket. He had just gotten there. Oh my gosh, he was the Bill Clinton of our school. Teachers were writing in his name. So Mike gets up and gives the speech. I can't remember who he ran against to be president. I get up and give my speech to be vice president. The guys who want to become secretary stand up and give their speeches. The last one to get up is who?
Pete. His
opening line. Do you know what a schmuck is?
Yes.
Okay, a schmuck is, if you know what it is, a schmuck is an idiot, moron, jerk, probably about as bad. So Mr. Livingston gets up right in front of Mr. Waters, who was this fat, angry, crew-cut man. He wasn't even an athletic coach, which was maybe a half excuse for being that way. Peter gets up and says the following: any schmuck can do this job. You all just want it so you can put it on your college applications. At least I'm honest about it. Sits down to riotous applause and is elected like 82-4 or something. The next week he went home to Manhattan on what they call a weekend. You go home on a weekend. And this Waters guy, the class agent, he called another election at 8 in the morning on a Tuesday and had another guy elected, took his job just like that, just like, Kremlin politics. Guy, just like that. Oh, I can't even remember what your question was now.
Well, I asked you how you saw your...
Oh, boy. See what your next question is going to be. Then I went to concerts over the years. It was kind of funny whenever he would come to town. There's one song of his that I played later on, years later. But I went to one of his concerts, what's it called? To Be Stuck Inside a Mobile with the Memphis Blues Again. I had the front row, I was in the front row. I got there early and I was standing there in the front. And he played the song. Well, he played songs. Next morning, I opened the newspaper to see what the set list was. And he played one of his songs that I play and perform, and I didn't recognize it. So, I mean, that shows you, like, where he was. You know, he would, like, retool things. And part of that, I think, from Bob was the same thing as the folk songs, you know, that he had, they were almost cliches to him now. They've keep the count. They talk about an endless tour. He's performed Like a Rolling Stone, which was his so-called best song, something like 1,242 times or something. They keep track. But whenever he came to town, I was there because he was my hero. I remember I went to George Mason by myself. It was like a Wednesday night. It was only like half sold out because Bob forgot melody there somewhere along the way. And he also forgot intelligibility along the way. So like when I took my kids to see him, it was, I'm living garbage. So that's okay. He's my hero. He can do what he wants. One of the guys, my good friends of mine, tried to tell me that Bob Dylan was going to come out with a Christmas album. I said, okay, right, all right. Okay, sure he is, right. Anyway, so he's, but he's my hero. I have to be there. You know, it's sort of like your uncle coming to town. But what I did is I walked stadiums. You know what that is? You do? Where'd you learn that?
From you.
You don't know what it is.
Well, when you walk through from one stage to the other one.
Oh, sort of. No, the stadiums mean you go to the team that's practicing goes to the stadium and then runs or walks up the steps over and over again to build up your muscles. And so I remember, you know, like, what am I going to do here? I got to be here, but I would do that. Okay, at least I'll get my exercise walking up and down the hill. So that was my loyalty to him. Another loyalty I had to him, he played at Nissan Pavilion, and I took my guitar. And after the concert, I was the first one to leave in the parking lot. I had my guitar, acoustic guitar, and my harmonica, and I'm playing some of his favorite songs. So I think, gosh, these people had a couple of drinks. I wasn't drinking by that point. If ever an audience is going to respond to me doing, you know, and plus I'm playing in the old way, the melodic way, you know. So I start to do this as the first time, and I'm fantasizing. There'll be a group of like 15 people. Oh, play Tambourine Man, or play I Shall Be Released, or whatever. So I start to play. That's a sacrilege. What are you doing that? Why are you spoiling something so perfect? The guy, some fan comes up to me. And oh man, okay. I was just trying to build a sense of community, sir. Another time, Bob had a 9:30 club event. 9:30 is you ever been there?
No.
What? I'll have the producer comp you some tickets. 9:30 Club is like a small club, probably seats 200 or something. And that was when Bob was playing small clubs. And so the tickets went on sale. You had to go get in line for tickets. Aha. Here's going to be a long line of people waiting. Here's going to be a long line of people waiting. Who are they? They're Bob Dylan fans, right?
Yes.
I get my guitar, get my harmonica, and that was more successful. Just sort of walked up and down, just fooling around, you know, and I found people, you know, who wanted to sing, you know, who were into it. Then one of the people that talked to me was a guy who was writing a story about Dylan coming to town for the Post. And I gave him my card. He called me that night and says, "Can I come out and take a picture of you? The photographer didn't show up. We're doing a story." So I said, okay. And when he got there, I put on my harmonica holder and I held my little 5-year-old in my arms because I figured that'd be a good shot. And the caption was, Stevens, who says Dylan saved his life 11 times before he was 17 or something like that. And my son Mikey, years later, told me that he thought that meant that, I don't know, that I'd been pulled out of a burning building or something, you know, that he saved my life. So those are the times I remember.
When we were talking about the interview, I asked you for some samples of what he did to help you, and you jotted some words down for us.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Do you have that paper?
I do. if you give me a second.
Yeah,
Here we go.
oh wow, without singing, Ramona, come closer, shut softly your watery eyes. The pangs of your sadness will fade as your senses arise. The flowers of the city, though breath-like, get death-like sometimes. But there's no use in trying to deal with the dying, though I cannot express that in lines. I can see that your head has been twisted and fed with worthless foam from the mouth. I can tell you are torn between staying and going back to the south. You've been fooled into thinking the finishing end is at hand, but it's all just a dream, babe, a vacuum of scheme, babe. No. I can't do it without singing it. Your cracked country lips, I still wish to kiss, is to be by the strength of your skin. Your magnetic moments still capture the minutes I'm in, but it grieves my heart, love, to see you trying to be a part of a world that just don't exist. It's all just a dream, babe, a vacuum, a scheme, babe, that sucks you into feeling like this. I can see that your head has been twisted and fed with worthless foam from the mouth. I can tell you are torn between staying and going back to the south. You've been fooled into thinking that the finishing end is at hand, but there's no one to beat you, no one to defeat you, except the thoughts of yourself feeling bad. I've heard you say many times that you're better than no one and no one is better than you. If you really believe that, you'd know you have nothing to win and nothing to lose. Everything changes, everything passes. Just do what you think you should do. And one day maybe, who knows, baby, I'll come and be crying to you. Wow, yeah, I didn't mean to do the whole thing, but...
It's beautiful.
Yeah, I agree. The senator, he came down here showing everyone his gun, handing out free tickets to the wedding of his son, and me, I almost got busted, and wouldn't it be my luck to be caught without a ticket and be discovered underneath a truck. So, you know, that was the outsider. He was the outsider. Mm-hmm. And he was able to get into the outsider completely without trouble. No, I do not feel that good to see the heartaches you embrace. If I was a master thief, perhaps I'd rob them. And don't I know you're dissatisfied with your position and your place? Don't you understand that's not my problem? You see me on the street, you always act surprised. You say, how are you? Good luck, but you don't mean it. When you know as well as me, you'd rather see me paralyzed. Why don't you just come out once and scream it? I wish that for just one time I could stand inside your shoes, and for that one moment, I could be you. Yes, I wish that for just one time you could stand inside my shoes. You'd know what a drag it is to see you. He was a good arrogant, oh my God. I received your letter yesterday about the time the doorknob broke. When you asked me how I was doing, was that some kind of joke? These people that you mentioned, yes, I know them, I received your letter yesterday about the time the doorknob broke. When you asked me how I was doing, was that some kind of joke? Yes, these people that you mentioned, I know them, they're quite lame. I had to rearrange their faces and give them all another name. Right now, I don't feel too good. Don't send me no more letters, no. Not unless you mail them from Desolation Row. That was sort of his analogy for not being phony, was to be on Desolation Row. Though you might hear laughing, spinning, swinging madly across the sun, it's not aimed at anyone, it's just escaping on the run, and but for the sky there are no fences facing. And if you hear vague traces of skipping reels of rhyme to your tambourine in time, I wouldn't pay it any mind. It's just a ragged clown behind. It's just a shadow you're seeing that he's chasing. It's just a shadow you're seeing that you're just seeing. So you're watching me, Bob Dylan, and you're just watching me chasing a shadow that I can't find. Wow. Yeah. Jeez. I dreamed I saw St. Augustine alive as you and me. No, I dreamed I saw St. Augustine alive with fiery breath. I believed I was amongst the ones who put him out to death. Oh, I awoke in anger, so alone and terrified. I put my fingers against the glass and bowed my head and cried. Whoa. That he couldn't get there either, you know, that he couldn't. What else did I write here? Early one morning, the sun was shining. I was laying in bed, wondering if she'd changed at all and if her hair was still red. Her folks, they put our lives together. Sure was going to be rough. They never did like Mama's homemade bread, and Daddy's bank book wasn't big enough. I was standing on the side of the road with rain falling into my shoes, heading out for the East Coast. Lord knows I paid some blues coming through, tangled up in blue. I lived with them on Montague Street in the basement down the stairs. There was music in the cafes at night and revolution in the air. Then he started into dealing with slaves, and something inside of her died. She had to sell everything she owned and froze up inside. And then finally, when the bottom fell out, I became withdrawn. The only thing I knew how to do was to keep on keeping on, like a bird that flew, tangled up in blue. Now I'm going back again. I got to get to her somehow. All these people that I used to know, they're an illusion to me now. Some are politicians, some are carpenters' wives. Don't know how it all got started. I don't know what they're doing with their lives. Me, I'm still on the road, heading for another joint. We always did feel the way, we just started from a different point of view. Tangled up in blue. I don't care how many letters they sent. The morning came and the morning went. I don't care how many letters they sent. The morning came and the morning went. Pack up your something and pick up your tent. You ain't going nowhere. It's easier to sing them than it is to say them.
Just saying.
The leaves began a-falling. The leaves began a-falling. And the seas began to part, and the people that confronted him were many. And he was told but these few words that opened up his heart. If you cannot bring good news, then don't bring any. And that was his answer, you know. If you can't bring news, then don't bring any. So leave your stepping stones behind. There's something that calls to you. Forget the dead you've left. They will not follow you. The vagabond who's rapping at your door is standing in the clothes that you once wore. Strike another match, go start anew. It's all over now. Baby blue. What did you hear, my blue-eyed son? What did you hear, my darling young one? I heard the sound of a thunder that roared out a warning. I heard the roar of a wave that could drown the whole world. I heard 100 drummers, their hands were ablazing. I heard 100 starving. I heard many people laughing. I heard the song of a poet who died in the gutter. I heard the sound of a clown who cried in the alley. What'll you do now, my blue-eyed son? What'll you do now, my darling young one? I'm going back out before the rain starts a-falling. I'm gonna walk to the depths of the deepest dark forest, where the people are many and the hands are all empty, where the pellets of poison are flooding the waters, where the home in the valley means the damp, dirty prison, where the executioner's face is always well hidden, where hunger is ugly and souls are forgotten, where black is the color and none is the number. And I'll tell it, and I'll speak it, and I'll think it, and I'll breathe it, and reflect from the mountains so all souls can see it. Then I'll stand on the ocean until I start sinking. But I'll know my song well before I start singing. They say every man needs protection. They say that every man must fall. Yet I swear I see my reflection somewhere so high above this wall. I see my life come shining from the west down to the east. I see my light come shining from the west down to the east. I shall be released. Yonder stands a man in this lonely crowd, a man who cries he's not to blame. All day long I hear him shouting so loud, crying out that he was framed. And last, I can't see my reflection in the water. I can't speak the sounds that show no pain. I can't hear the echo of my own footsteps or remember the sound of my own name.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and of course he did change he had a hard time remembering his name.
Then you sang in this song, Invisible River. I have to quote it. There were some teachers there who challenged me to learn, but I found other classrooms with grades easier to earn. Dylan cried over and over, how does it feel? but I had no idea in the Ivy League maybe I'd turn real. How did Dylan cry over and over? How does it feel?
How does it feel? Yeah, so now you're quoting me, huh? See if I remember that. There were some teachers there who challenged me to learn, but I found other classrooms with grades easier to earn. Dylan cried over and over, how does it feel? But I had no idea in the Ivy League maybe I'd turn real. Yeah. Yeah. That's what happened. That's what happened. How does it feel? That's so ironic that in the way Dylan meant it was like a put down somebody. How does it feel now? You know, you got nowhere to go, you're nowhere. And the fact that he was asking over and over again, how does it feel? So I was the halfback from Manhasset. I'd gone to a bigger school, and the football coaches loved it when they saw that I could like grab the football and run with it and go right through people. But I was also the Dylanite from the Unitarian camp. So I was the Dylanite halfback, which was a very strange combination. Coach Geisinger, when he got excited, he talked way like this. Stevens, you think too much. He'd say, you think too much, which I found interesting. I think I did think too much. So it's funny that over and over again, Dylan was saying, how does it feel? But I had no idea. I didn't know I had any feelings. And I did have feelings. And one of the feelings I had that I didn't know I had was a feeling of loss because I didn't know what was going to happen to my home. My parents were getting divorced. That was part of the package of me going away to boarding school. If you had told me probably up until I was 21 or 22 that my emotional state or unhappiness was caused by my family life, I would have said, oh, come on, that's so ridiculous. That's so pedestrian. Are you kidding me? I'm worried about existentialism and the meaning of life, or my own secret, which is my own ambition. You know, I was going to become famous and prominent. I wasn't sure how, but I was going to do it any way I could. And you saw me running for president right away. Junior class bookstore is the ultimate example for me. I had no interest in being chairman of the junior class bookstore. Zero. But they were having an election. I ran to become chairman of the junior class. That's how...
Just to achieve your goal.
That's an example to me of how bad it was, how I was... We talk about other directed versus inner directed. Do you ever hear that? Other directed means, well, do you like me? Will you let me do it? Will you take me? Will you accept me? Inner directed is, hey, I'm here, I know what I'm doing. Oh, I still only give myself maybe an 80-20, maybe a 70-30 on that other to inner. But back then it was 98 to 2. Wow. So that was what I didn't know, which actually leads into the secret of happiness that I was going to reveal to you. You still remember the first secret of happiness?
Yes.
What is it?
Talking turns.
Talking turns. All right, you saved it. You saved another word. Taking turns talking. Okay. Yeah. No. Right. And maybe if we have enough time in this interview, we can try that again later.
Sure.
But this secret is this: there are no bad feelings. On the most elemental level, that means whatever you're feeling now, I want to strangle you, I want to kill you, I want to jump off the building, I want to go in and scream. That feeling is not a feeling you should punish yourself for having. It's a feeling, it's not an action. And it's actually safer if you have the feeling and not realize you have it, than repress it. So having the feeling and letting it come out is the secret of there are no bad feelings. That is genius, way beyond still beyond my grade level. You know, it took me years to learn how to feel or say ouch when something hurt me. I pretend it didn't. Oh, that didn't hurt me. Well, that was not a good sign. To pretend it didn't hurt me. You know, I had to. The smartest thing was to feel it. So.
Okay, I want to ask you about more your interview that you give to Eve Schlesinger.
Okay.
She wrote about you. I would like to ask Slim which of his songs hurts him the most. I think I know the answer. That will be. Is the song called 7 Times? Was she right?
Was 7 Times the song that hurt me the most?
Yes.
Orange Helicopter. She certainly wasn't wrong.
Okay. She wrote about you. What? Want to know how I know? Follow my logic. It is one of the 3 songs there where Slim talks about his hero, Bob Dylan. Ballad to a Tin Man, and he was 12, are the other 2. Is she right?
Oh, I see. Okay, so it's one of 3 songs that Slim talks to his hero 7 times is, and Ballad to a Thin Man, and he was 12 of the others. Okay. Well, I'm not saying she's wrong.
Then she goes on. But 7 Times is the only song where he addresses Bob by name, and he puts his hero in a strong company. He tells Noah to destroy his own boat. He tells Shakespeare to break his own pen. And he tells Bobby Dylan to, well, you listen, I don't want to spoil it you for you. Well, with that introduction, let's watch Slim playing 7 Times.
On the monitor?
Yes.
Seven times I held you close after 7 years in hell. And now you say I have to go, but your tears say something else. 7 dragons follow me, clawing at my sword. If only you were calling me to come back to your door. Some men break into prison, and I guess I'm one of these. But I need what I'm missing, and you miss what you need. That shirt of mine you're keeping. If I could take its place, I'd hold you while you're sleeping, find answers in your face. Some women break into heaven, and I went with one day. But I just keep forgetting why we didn't stay. Noah, tear your ship apart. Shakespeare, break your pen. And Bobby, take this sad guitar. It's starting to crack again.
We just watched the playing of 7 times, and I have a question for you. Did you break into a prison?
Did I break into prison? Oh man, some men break into prison, and I guess I'm one of these. Yeah. I did break back into prison a couple times but I need what I'm missing, and you miss what you need. Yeah, it was worth it. It wasn't the Andersonville prison. I needed to be back in a couple of prisons. I needed to be back in a couple of prisons, and I felt that was worth it. No, some men break into prison. I needed to be back into prison to be with some people I needed to take care of. Yeah.
How do you feel about playing Bob's songs?
I love that people like me for me. And I think Bob's got that big problem. He talks about it a lot, you know, so like, oh, how tiring that just must be. Like these people that wandered by just now. Can you imagine if I was Justin Bieber or just anybody, they would be hanging around waiting to see if they could get a picture taken with me to prove that they knew me. Oh, that's got to be fun for like 1.5 seconds. Well, tell that to Mr. Me. What was your question?
How do you feel about playing Bob's songs?
Oh boy, oh boy. Is that question on here? Okay, first, playing Bob's song. First of all, why bother? What in the world? Why in the world would I do that? He's done it.
Right.
And it's perfect. One reason it's perfect is because he did it. It's his song. Let him do it. The other reason is, from my point of view, it's perfect. Like a poor fool in his prime, yes, I know you can hear me talk. But is your heart made out of lime, or is it solid rock? I mean, he, you know, even more pedestrian people than I am have said he's a master of phrasing. Now, my middle-class football player friends, the best they would say well, I like his songs, but I don't like the way he sings them. You know, that was a very common thing to say about that guy. He actually got away with murder compared to what he could have gotten away with, considering how arrogant he was and put down type, you know, because he was like Peter Livingston, putting people down. You know, you asked me before, and I got so wrapped up in my own histrionics that, well, that was a zap. I was zapping myself. I wasn't being histrionic, I was being respectful. But I had written down, when you asked about the lyrics, the ghost of electricity howls in the bones of her face. Sorry, but I just like that. When he was 17, he wrote a song to his hero, and he told me all about heroes. He described himself as being a Woody Guthrie jukebox. He was just completely absorbed, which, you know, he taught me how to have a hero too, because he had a hero. He went to see Woody Guthrie's in the hospital, And he talks frankly about how he found out there was somebody else playing another Woody Guthrie jukebox. And that was part of his calculus of, well, I have to move on to my own stuff, but that was obviously going to happen anyway. That was a flood. Nobody could have stopped that flood. Looking back, I'm sure he would agree. Hey, hey, Woody Guthrie, I wrote you a song about a funny old world that's coming along. Seems sick and it's hungry, it's tired and it's torn. It looks like it's dying and it's hardly been born. Then he talks about going down the same trail that Woody Guthrie's going. Fine, that's a 17-year-old's hero worship, and I've been the last person in the world to put down hero worship. We're lucky to have a hero. I've asked you before, do you have a hero?
Yes.
Did you tell us who it was?
My mom is my hero.
Very lucky. Think of it, the people who don't have their mom as a hero or don't have a hero at all. So that was 17. But he gets to be 22, and a black man who was peacefully demonstrating to have the rights of his citizenship in the United States. His name was Medgar Evers, and he was shot, cold blood. And Bob wrote, "A South politician preaches to the poor white man, you got more than the blacks, don't complain. You're better than them, you've been born with white skin," they explain. And the Negro's name is used, it is plain, for the politician's gain as he rises to fame, and the poor white remains on the caboose of the train, but it ain't him to blame, he's only a pawn in their game. Today Medgar Evers was buried from the bullet he caught. They lowered him down as a king. But when the shadowy sun sets on the one that fired the gun, he'll see by his grave on the stone that remains, carved next to his name, his epitaph plain. He's only a pawn in their game. That ain't Justin Bieber. I mean,
Right.
that's well, that's strong social analysis and trying to free people. And that's another example. I said, and Bob said to everybody, why are you fighting? He was trying to cut. And we can't blame him any more than we can blame Barry Obama for the fact we have problems and children are getting bombed. So you asked me, how do I feel about playing his songs? So I love it. And now it's like an old Bible. In other words, when I was young, singing Knocking on Heaven's Door, I was feeling it. Now I'm feeling that I felt it. So now I get to experience Bob as a 17-year-old, me as a 9-year-old or 7-year-old, a 7-year-old, me younger than him, but liking him. But now I can appreciate the me that was coming along, and I still have the fantasy of reaching other people who had the same catechism, in other words, who grew up on the same stuff, and that feels great. I'm an English teacher's son, so I know he really meant to make some of his songs 4 verses and not 11. He lost his eraser, and when you're playing his song, when I'm playing his song, there's no tinkering in the kitchen. Even now, when I'm playing one of my own songs, I'm reliving, even if I don't want to change anything, I'm reliving the experience that brought me into it. When I'm singing his song, it's pure. I'm just completely into his song. I and I is my favorite song on the way right now, or Tomorrow is a Long Time. Well, I could go on there a lot. They're all my favorites, but the ones I play. And I'm just completely absorbing it. I'm not like him having to think, oh, why'd I put that word there or whatever. It's processed that way. And also, I can just appreciate the beauty of a 19-year-old saying, "Crimson flames tied through my ears, rolling high in mighty traps, pounced with fire on flaming roads, using ideas as my maps. We'll meet on edges soon," said I, proud neath heated brow. Oh, but I was so much older then, I'm younger than that now. Crimson flames tied through my ears, rolling high in mighty traps, pounced with fire on flaming roads, using ideas on as my maps. I appreciate that 22-year-old so much for not only writing that and performing it, but for having the guts to write it and perform it. Because on one level, what does that mean? You know, it's like, but I know what it means. I know what he is. The beauty, I think, for me is that, what is it, form follows function. He was expressing how he felt. And he's grabbing this word, and he's grabbing this word, and he's grabbing word. And he's not like potting this, and what does that mean? And how could a crimson flame be tied through your ears, rolling a high and mighty trap? But I know exactly what he meant. As a kid, of course, I knew exactly what he meant. I knew exactly what he meant.
Okay. Let's watch Ballad to a Thin Man on the monitor.
Ballad to a Thin Man?
Yes.
I stood upon my brother's grave as the fire hit the town. I heard you cry, you can still be saved. So I took the road you went down. The price of going alone. You gave out, you gave in, and you gave up. Then you fell in love with a rolling stone. Wind blowing in the wind was enough. Pointed at the promised land. Then you walked across the sea. Well, I'm gonna follow you if I can, until I'm finally free. You paid the price of going alone. You gave out, you gave in, and you gave up. Then you fell in love with a rolling stone. Wind blowing in the wind was enough.
This is the quotes from your lyrics, right?
Okay.
Did you pay the price of going alone?
You paid the, yeah. Oh, Bob, you know, that was the first, this is the first song that, I stood upon my brother's grave as the fire hit the town. I heard you cry, you can still be saved, so I took the road you went down. You paid the price of going alone. You gave out, you gave in, you gave up. Then you fell in love with a rolling stone when blowing in the wind was enough. Yeah, that I'm talking to him and me. He went alone. You know, he wasn't part of the Turtles. He went alone, and he paid the price of going alone. And he was lucky to go alone. And for me too, I went alone. You know, I knew I would go alone, and that was great because I got to do it my way.
Did you give out? Did you give in? Did you give up?
Did you give out, give in, and give up? Yeah, you give out, you gave in, and you gave up. Yeah. Yeah, he did, and I did too.
Did you fall in love with the Rolling Stone?
Then you fell in love with the Rolling Stone. Now, what does that mean? He fell in love with, you know, the song was a huge event for him in his life. And his whole thing was that like a Rolling Stone. Wow. Yeah. And for me too, I fell in love with the Rolling Stone, namely him. When Blowing in the Wind was enough. So that's a play because Blowing in the Wind was his folk song. All the folkies loved him, you know, and these guys I talked about, they revered him for being such a conscience. Like a Rolling Stone came out. You go into the finest schools, but you know, babe, you only used to get juiced in it. No one's ever taught you how to live out on the street. Now you're going to have to get used to it. You said you'd never compromise with a mystery tramp, but now you realize he's not selling any alibis as you stare into the vacuum of his eyes and say, would you like to make a deal? How does it feel? That's a long way from how many years must a white dove sail before she sleeps in the sand, you know? So it's like he fell in love with a Rolling Stone and Blowing in the Wind was enough. In a way that's saying the folk self was enough, but he fell in love with the Rolling Stone, and I'm so glad he did.
Was the Blowing in the Wind enough?
Yeah, so it was Blowing in the Wind enough. You pointed at the promised land, then you walked across the sea. Well, I'm going to follow you if I can until I'm finally free. So that was me saying, I guess that was like when he wrote to Woody Guthrie, I'm going to follow your path. I should have quoted that actual line, that he's going to be, I've been traveling in the same path. So that was me interior-wise. The geniuses now in the grad school would call that unilateral closure. I was saying something to my hero, knowing he wasn't going to hear it, but I said it for myself on side. Yeah.
How did you reconcile with the forces within you?
Oh boy, very hard for me because I was so tightly wound. So tightly wound. My children, God bless them, say, I think jokingly, how bad it was that I told him that marijuana had been good for me, because, oh my God, I ruined their lives. But it helped me. I remember being at the practice piano at the university, having gotten there after having smoked something, and I was saying to myself, where have I been? Where were you? Where was this side of your, where is this side of your personality? Where is this side of your personhood was completely denied? You know, I was so tight in personal relationships too. I didn't value interacting with other people that much because I was running for president, you know? And that was hard. And I didn't have the secret of happiness, which I got later, which I'm about to tell you. All I had then was sort of like the drug. But the drug calmed me down enough that it got me to the piano. And I thought, where have I been? Why aren't I here? You know, this is crawling to the speaker if you want. So you ready for the secret?
Yes.
Don't think shoes, think fitted in. My sister, nicest thing she ever did for me, I don't know how old I was, 15 I bet. Well, I want to be Bob Dylan, I want to be Bjorn Borg, who was a tennis player. You've heard of him?
No.
Oh, you never heard of Bjorn Borg?
No, but the name sounds good.
You've never heard of Bjorn Borg?
No, you have to take in consideration that I grew up
Security.
in a communist country.
Security. She's never heard of Bjorn Borg. Bjorn Borg was, well, I'll let you discover for yourself, but he was a tennis pro, okay? And I want to be Bobby Kennedy. You ever heard of Bobby Kennedy? He was, oh, I'm sorry, honey.
No,
But
it's
you
okay.
deserve it. Not even.
No, you're fine. Who was Bobby Kennedy?
That you can be forgiven for much easier, and he would laugh. He would be laughing too. He was the younger brother of President Kennedy.
Okay.
So I want to be Bjorn
That's
Borg,
so.
I want to be Bobby Kennedy, and I want to be Bob Dylan. I don't know what to do. You know what she said to me?
What?
She said, it doesn't sound like your problem is having to choose. Your problem is how to fit everything in. That was her giving me a blessing. And Lord, I needed it to not get all torn by these different sides of my personality. Things I want to do this, I want to do this. Just be steady. And I succeeded.
Slim, what is your plans now?
I'm going to hit you some more. I thought we were going to do 5 and 3 on 3.
That will be later.
Oh, okay. Let's do it now.
I don't know what to talk about.
Oh, well, I know that's the point. And I cheat sometimes. Especially last time, I sort of had an idea of what I wanted to talk about. So I'll go first. 1-on-1, 3 and 3 is best. But we'll go.
I don't know what to talk about.
Start with little details. That's what they say.
I don't want it.
You can talk about not knowing what to talk about.
No.
So, and of course, so I just pushed for me for 2 minutes. So, to me, I really like, but still the me, you know. I'm happy that I'm feeling that artist obituary idea, you know, that I can't see my grandmother. You know, I never saw my grandmother. She used to play the ukulele. I don't have a song of her. I wrote a song about her. And I don't have her at all. So on one level, I like the idea that, do you know there are 100 billion stars in our galaxy? And do you know how many galaxies there are that we've counted? 100 billion of those. And they are, the farthest ones out are going away from us faster than half the speed of light. So there's an audience we're never going to reach. That's a, what do they call it in the business? What do they call that? Demographic. That's a demographic we're never going to get to, you know, along with the Chinese, who are not going to be able to appreciate probably how I appreciate Bob Dylan's turn of phrase. But the demographic I might get to, given the electrons in these cameras and things, is 6 generations down from me. Now, of course, they have to be interested, but that's, in a sense, me writing my own obituary. And that's why I like being here, you know, that this was the bridge of the nation's capital, the United States of America, the key bridge. It's called Key Bridge. This was it. And now they have that one. And to me, that symbolizes being by the river. That wasn't that hard. Do you hear the beep? All right. You're on.
Well, you're saying that you can see your grandmother. I, on the other hand, I feel my grandmother very close to me. We didn't have a chance to spend a lot of time together, but the time that we had, it was a very precious time, and that's what I have it, that's what I remember, and that's what follows me during my life. I feel her presence, I feel her love when I'm not loved. I feel protected when I'm not protected. I feel that she was a big influence by who I am right now, because she gave good education, or I will not say good education, I will say proper education to my mom, that my mom turned that towards me, and I think because of my grandmother I am who I am now, because my mom tried, she always will quote my grandma, she will always say stuff what my grandma will say in that situations to her when she was going through the tough time, and that will reveal the person who I am right now. I feel like she's always with me, even she's gone now. But I always, when I imagine her, I always see her smile. And that smile, you can't trade to anything. As you said, the galaxies are going farther. Yes, she's going farther because the memories are becoming to be shorter for me. Because, you know, your brain can absorb as much as it can, and then what you have in storage, it clears for the new memories. So I feel like the memories that I have, they are shorter now than I had it before.
Beep, beep, beep. Where were we?
I want to ask you about your plans now.
Frank McCourt's uncle said, food, all the rest is poetry. And that's so true. That it's all poetry. We have these bodies that hopefully will keep us going for a while, and we have to feed them and take care of them, and the rest is poetry. So I am so lucky to be having poetry. I was thinking this morning about these poor people who are living in fear of rockets coming and killing them in so many places right now. But I'm just charging up my batteries and living this life of poetry, you know, because
Right.
the rest is taken care of. I heard that it was Ezra Pound who said, you can be art, you can buy art, or you can make art. Those are your three choices. I got a kick out of that. The buy art especially, because that's a side of the mercant side of people. Then I had a stronger side of that, and now it's weaker, thank goodness. So then the choices, that would be the acquisition, you know, oh, I own this. Mm-hmm. Like in The Little Prince, where Little Prince gets to a star. I haven't read this recently, and he gets to one of the stars, and the guy's counting the stars in a book, and he's writing it down all day long, and Little Prince says, what are you doing? Remember this?
No.
And he says, well, those are my stars. They belong to me. I have to count them every day and make sure they're still there, you know? So that's buying art. Being art and making art, that's a good one. That's a tricky one, because being art is different. That's sort of like being the event and flaming out usually, or doing something for effect. Now Frank McCourt made art. Mm-hmm. Bob Dylan made art, and he showed me how to make it.
Good. Well, I want to say thank you so much to everyone that sit up with us today and listen to our conversation. I want to say thank you to Slim Stevens to come today here and share with us a little bit of his stories and about his life. Thank you so much, and we hope to hear back from you soon.
Thank you. Can I try your glasses on?
Sure.
You see. Oh, Holding that, oh, you can open your eyes. It's hard though, you got the glare there, huh?
He was 12 when he first heard you. The future was cold and long. Lying in his living room as Peter, Paul, and Mary sang your song. How many roads must he walk down before he's called a man? Trying to forget the blows he didn't understand. He crawled to the speaker